my friends, and welcome back. Happy Friday to everyone. I hope you're having a great week so far. For today's video, we're going to be creating this folio using a base that I created for a project that we shared during our 12 Days of Christmas in July series. So my thinking behind that is that if you have a good variety of bases, you can simply switch out the paper collection or the theme or the embellishments and have limitless possibilities for new projects. And so I think it also helps it to be a little bit faster and easier, and I'm all for that. So make sure that you stay tuned to the end of this video because we do have a special announcement for next week and you don't want to miss that. So stick with me and we will make this together. Okay, here's that base that I mentioned, and because we have covered a project with this previously in our 12 Days of Christmas in July series, there is already a tutorial for the base itself, and so I'm not going to cover that again today in this video, but I will link it at the top of the description. So if you're interested in seeing how I created the base for this project, you can hop on over there and find it pretty easily. What I will say is, even though it was designed to work for a budget-friendly Christmas folio using a paper crafting kit that came from Hobby Lobby, it did have some single-sided papers and ephemera and stickers, but we can give it a very big upgrade by switching out our paper collection and then including many of my favorite layering elements like flowers and charms and buttons and all the trimmings that I really love. So I'm just going to share with you just quickly how this will work. So it just has a fold down section here and it is held in place by this nice flap on the top, and then when you open it, it has two very generous sized pockets. You could put anything you like in there. I'm going to fill mine with folded inserts, but if it were for Christmas, I could definitely see putting a hot cocoa packet in here and some little candy canes or a wrapped cookie or some kind of treat. Use it for giving a gift card or using it as a non-traditional scrapbook. It has a lot of potential. You could use it for many different things, and with basically any paper collection that you have, you could even pull papers from your stash and mix and match them to create something new and work through that stash. And so let's talk about the paper collection first. I was so inspired by this because my daughter-in-law has a sundress that is exactly this color and it has lemons on it and she looks so beautiful in it and I love her so much, so I was inspired to pick up this collection. I ordered this during my Halloween acquisition of collections for our series that's coming up here at the end of September. I was waiting and waiting and waiting for the ephemera pack to be available through scrapbook.com, and I just couldn't wait anymore. I had to get that paper and start my other planning. So when I did add this to my order, unfortunately the kit was already sold out, so I didn't get the sticker sheet, and then the ephemera pack was not yet available. So I am left with just the pattern paper, and then it had a couple of different sizes of the journal cut apart, so like a 3x4 and a 4x6 and a 4x4. And so I decided that is an opportunity to create something very different than my first book, where I relied quite a lot on the ephemera pieces and the stickers. This time I'm just going to be using the pattern paper on the inside and creating my project from there. So as I work along, I'm going to move my collection out of the way and I'm going to put this here. If you guys want to screenshot this right now, it has all the measurements for the cardstocks and the matting. This is for the base itself, but this is for finishing the base. So if you wanted to get a screenshot, you can do that. And then I'll leave it here as long as I can. Don't want to get anything stuck to it. So I'm going to start by covering the outside and then the base, and then we'll work on the inserts when we get that done. So what I want to do is cover this portion here with my beautiful plaid, and you can see that I have used a nice thick heavy black cardstock for all of my matting, so it will be consistent throughout. and it looks really beautiful with that pattern paper. I'm going to flip this over now and add the back on. It's easier now than when it gets filled with dimensional things. So this is going to be the same as the front. I've already put on that matting just to make this process go a little bit faster. And then I'll pull this first fold down, and this is a perfect place to use the alternate sides or the B side of the paper. So this was that same plaid, just the reverse side. So I know they go together well because that's how they were designed. So I might as well take advantage of someone else doing that work for me. The base matting is 5 by 5/8 of an inch by 4 7/8 of an inch. And that's going to give me a border of the base around the outside as well. I really like showing that white border. You don't have to use white if your book is for Christmas or a different holiday. You could switch it up and put green or red, just whatever works for the collection that you're working with. But I liked the white because it kind of brightens up the tone of these dark colors. And so, like I said, this is the B side. And I'm just going to go ahead and use the offcut from these and give a layering pattern to this. I think that looks really pretty together. And since this one is the top, I'll just go ahead and add that to the top here. And I'm just taking advantage of the borders that I already have, and I cut it to layer right on top of that first pattern paper layer. So here is the portion that will fold down, and you can put all kinds of things in here like pictures or flat keepsakes, any kind of journaling. That will be perfect in here because you're going to close it in, so it will be very secure. Okay, so when we open the book, I want to cover the back of the base as well because that kind of shows when all the layering is put in place. So I think it would look nice to have another pattern peeking out from the back. Maybe it will be easier to get it positioned from this side. And so I just went through and found the patterns that I wanted for this, and I alternated the scale as well as the tone. So this one has a lighter background. I'll put something different on the front. It'll be a chunkier pattern that's a little darker in value, and so you'll notice these layers when you put them all in, and you can see them all at once. So I'll just finish both of these sides here as I'm working along, and everything is going to have the same border. So all of these pieces were pretty easy to cut. It went pretty quickly. And I will also mention that because we're adding cardstock layer to this folio as opposed to our first one where we had just single-sided paper and no border, it is much heavier and very thick and very sturdy. And so this is definitely going to be a fun book to finish because it's so thick and chunky. Okay, so here's the pattern I'm picking for the front of my pocket, and I'm just going to add that to the front here as well for both sides because they show together. So I want them to kind of match as I go along. The pocket matting is 5 5/8 by 2 3/8, and then the pattern paper is 5 1/2 by 2 1/4. Now in the original project, I did have all that ephemera and stickers. In this one, I'm going to be utilizing the beautiful cut-aparts as my design elements. These are the focal images, and so I just cut these out as they were. It's 3 by 4, and then I added the matting, and then I put these on the heavier 110-pound cardstock because this will be above the layer of the pocket, so I want it to be much sturdier on the portion that is not supported by the pocket. I'm just bringing that in a little bit because I think it's fun to see the other things on this side. It definitely helps the appearance that there's a lot of layers. And also you'll notice that I have only put my adhesive on the bottom portion because I don't want to accidentally seal up my pocket here on the side. I'll just do the same thing for here. And I think that it worked out pretty well. I picked 2 images for this that both had the yellow tone in the back because my pocket has the black and white check. And so that is all for this portion. Now I've also picked an alternate pattern that will show on the inside of this flap. And remember, when you flip it up, that you want to have the images here going the right way up, because it is very directional. Some of the patterns in this collection you could alternate, which if you had it is a landscape or a profile, but some of them are definitely very directional. So here is the base. I'm gonna cover the outside of the flap when we get the inside done, because I want to include some other trims, and so you can see how we'll close this up and we're ready to add all of the fun stuffs inside. Okay, this is the first thing we're going to put into the pocket. It will be in the back, and it will be the largest item, and then everything else we make will decrease in size so that we can see all the layers at once. So this is just an insert, and I covered it with that pattern paper. It's a beautiful check. I'm not really sure what I want to call this color. Y'all can let me know in the comments. It's kind of like a seafoam or not quite a sage. I don't know what color this is, but I have it on both sides. So this is a very nice sturdy tag. And I'm going to also include some of the additional cut aparts to this because these images are absolutely beautiful. I wish I had more of that one. I should have got 2 sheets, but I'll probably pick some up when I do my next scrapbook.com order. And because I want to leave this very flexible, if you want to put pictures on it, you could do that. There is also not a lot of contrast, so you could write directly on this pattern if you wanted to include some journaling. But I want to have a layering piece that is removable so that you have a lot of options with how to finish it. So I'm just going to clip it on here with a pretty coordinating clip, and this is just like an epoxy covered paper clip, and that works perfectly for that. I'm going to work on both sides as I go along, and I've already finished the right hand side, so that will be a little bit easier. But you can see I've picked the coordinating journal cards again because I think they will just look nicer when they show together, and it's going to be covered on the back as well. I'm going to clip on my journal card and tuck it into the pocket. It's so nice to have the one side of the pocket open. It just makes it so much easier to slide things in. So for our next item, I do have a folded insert this time. It's basically a top folding A2 size card, and I was kind of excited to put this style in because this collection had some very beautiful cut aparts that were the 4x6 size, and I don't often get to use these in my card making because they're just not quite the right size or orientation. So I thought these would be perfect for the front of this card. Now, because it's A2 size, it is only 5.5 inches wide, so I did have to clip this down to fit in the matting on this card, but I didn't lose any of what the image or the sentiment was about, so I think this worked out perfectly. And like I said, I don't get to use these often, so I was excited to have these larger focal images. So when it tucks into the pocket, this part will show, but there are also some additional cut aparts that were that size that had a white background, like a layered label kind of look to it, and I thought that would be the perfect place to add journaling or writing, or even just go ahead and put more pictures on that. And then here is my layering pattern on the top, just a sweet little bee on a very non-contrasting script, so that's very good background for adding other images to, or your pictures. And so this is very thick now with all these layers. I'm going to leave the back plain because we want to consider the amount of bulk we're adding to this pocket, and I would rather have more pictures than pattern paper on the back of this. So I'll just tuck that in here, and you can see how these layers are starting to kind of stack up. Here is the card for the other side. And I finished it the same on the inside with the bees, and then the alternate pattern with the area to do the journaling, and I'll put that in here. Okay, for our last inserts, I'm going to utilize these 3x4 journal cards, and I'm going to use the journal card with matting on the front, and then I'm going to finish the inside and the back with the pattern paper and no matting, because once again, I'm working on reducing the bulk and the volume of the papers on the inside, but I think it still looks absolutely gorgeous. And this typography with pretty yellow butterflies is just gorgeous, and you could definitely add your pictures and stuff on top because it's a small enough scale you'll be able to see around it. So let's put this here on this side. This is going to be positioned closer to this side. And then I've got one here as well. So you'll notice that once again I've gone for the same color and tone just so that it looks nice and consistent. And when I fold that up, you can see just how full and chunky that is. It is so heavy, you guys. So now is the time to work on the top cover. And in our previous project, we had a small border of stickers and wrapped a twine around so that it would have a good closure, but we can do better for this book because we have this beautiful bold check ribbon, and so I'm going to incorporate that. Instead of wrapping around, it will just come underneath the image that we're going to add, and then we can tie it with a pretty bow closer to the bottom. So I just want to make sure that I have enough here so that I can get a good generous bow, and I'll go ahead and tack this ribbon on with the hot glue, and then it will be more secured when we add the layer of paper on top. This will hold it secure in the meantime. So I've just got my folio open and flat as much as I can so I can add my pattern paper to the flap here. And this is just a very beautiful pattern that is going to complement that plaid. It's the same color but kind of a different tone because it has a more solid background, and then it has those beautiful butterflies and leaves as well. So I'm just going to go ahead and tie this up here while we're working along so I can get that flap to stay tucked down right where I want it, and I can put the bow here as well. That will help me to know exactly where this is going to fall so I don't inadvertently stick anything to it. And also a good time to go ahead and trim the tail of this so they're even on both sides. Okay, so whereas our original design had a very simple, it's still very cute cover on it, we're going to improve on that by adding my favorite layering pieces. So I've just got a small doily. This is that Recollections doily, and I have looked for a link for you guys and I can't seem to find one, but I think you have a doily die in your supply, you could definitely use that. I'm just keeping it the same size as the flap so that there aren't any fragile pieces coming over. So here is my image for my focal point. I just took one of the journal cards and cut that circle shape with a die, and then the nesting die that was one larger I used to cut that beautiful glittery cardstock that coordinates so well. I'm just going to put that in the middle, and I know not a lot of that doily shows, but I think it's important because I really want to break up those patterns so this focal point really pops out, and it helps to brighten up the cover a little bit as well. Here are the flowers that I picked to coordinate, and these are all from Little Birdie Crafts. They come with leaves already attached, so I left those in place, and then I die cut some additional foliage flourishes so that I could fill in the arrangement. And then I added this beautiful gold netting and some loopy twine bows just to make sure that this is a nice full display. I'm going to add this with my hot glue, try and keep all of the fragile pieces within the border of the book cover itself. And then because we are working with butterflies, I want to include these butterfly charms, and I will attach these as I always do with the hot glue, and then cover the cut end with a little vintage button. Then I've got 3 more buttons that I can add here at the bottom. So that's all for our folio created with the simple vintage lemon twist. Now, as I mentioned in the intro, we do have a quick announcement to make, and for next week, we are not going to be posting on Wednesday and Friday. Instead, we are going to have a special 4-day series starting on the 24th. That's on Tuesday, and we're going to call our small series the Focus On. I'm going to pick a particular collection that I absolutely love and make a more involved project that will span over the distance of 4 videos so that we can cover the whole base all the way up through the finishing elements and trims. So make sure you mark your calendar for Tuesday the 24th. We're going to be working for 4 days with the Wilderness collection from Minte Paper, and I think you guys are going to love the project I have lined up. I've got most of the details worked out already, and I really love it, and I can't wait to share it with you. So if you're interested in more detailed projects with the start to finish process, I think that these mini series will be right up your alley. So if you enjoyed this project, make sure you give me a big thumbs up and leave me a comment. If you're not already, I would love for you to subscribe, and as always, I'm wishing you a happy and productive day, and thank you so much for watching. Bye.